welcome back to Runeterra. This is episode 15. I'm Grandmaster Dan.
I'm Stan Jarzewski.
And I'm Adam Edelman-Munoz.
We'd like to do a little freaky here sometimes, and our version of freaky is mixing up our intros a little bit for you guys. This little test
Adam,
is something new.
What have you done? It was so
what
difficult.
happens is my internet sucks.
Darkest timeline, that's fine.
Yep.
All right, so today, our humble listeners, well, you might not be humble, I don't know, I don't really know you. We have our usual Meta Pulse, the Runeterra Meta Pulse trademark. We have a recap, Twitch Rivals. We are in fact a drama podcast now. We'll be getting into that controversy, as well as the format, who was there, the results, what are some of the good decks, and of course at the end I'll have less memes this time, more of a quiz for my fellow hosts. But let's go ahead and get over to Stan, fly on over to Stan, and get that meta pulse, dude.
Yeah, the meta has stabilized pretty well, it seems like. Some stuff have moved up and down a little bit on like what's, better or worse than anything else, but for the most part everything's stayed pretty solid. A lot of the control decks are still doing really well. Your Karina controls, depending on whatever you want to call Heimer Vi, kind of mid-rangey, but all those later game decks are still doing really, really well. Burn aggro is still seeing a lot of play, and I mean, when it goes off, it wins fast enough that it's good enough, but I still think the deck's a little sketchy, just because it is still pretty easily answered. Like, if things don't go your way, you're out of the game pretty fast, but at least it moves quick. So yeah, not too much changing in the meta. I'm really upset that our Slamu deck hasn't hit top of the meta yet, because I'm still convinced it's the best deck.
Yeah, I think it's kind of stuck at tier 2 right now still, for some weird reason.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the best deck in the meta. Street Sharks are absolutely amazing. You should just play Street Sharks. It counters literally everything.
Well, here's what I think. I think we should get those Mind Meld decks. We should get those up. We need to stream those this week, and that'll be our tier 1 breakthrough.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't released the real tier 1 yet. We will go ahead and do that. This whole meta list is going to shake up at the end of the week when we do the Mind Meld deck, so,
Exactly.
Hold on to your seats, play your decks while they're still good.
Exactly.
Whole meta's getting broken soon. But...
if I could circle back a bit, since we were talking about what the hell is this Heimer Vi deck, I've noticed a trend, which is if you can't tell what a deck is, it's either very good or very bad.
Yeah. That's actually a very good point. That's how I felt the first couple times I played it.
But I mean... In all reality, it shows something about decks. If you can't tell what a deck is, but it's doing good things, that means it can play multiple roles and has multiple different strengths, which is just a good place to be if you're in a healthy, developed metagame.
Well, that's really what you're getting out of Heimer Vi, is you're getting that the slow value out of Heimer, and you're getting that combo kill potential from Vi. I mean, that's one thing I noticed. Like, my opponent was on Karina control and felt like they had to be the aggressor because I have the kind of value engine in Heimer.
Yep.
So that makes them overextend into some of my spells, and then I can just get myself into a position where I can strike in with a 10 damage Vi on one turn, flip it, and then just do, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 damage from burn spells to round them out.
Yeah.
Vi is really hard to answer. Vengeance or Thermo Beam, and the deck's able to run Ionia, so it gets to deny one of those, and all of a sudden they're just like pretty much out of it.
Yeah.
It's also well set up to prey on the way control decks are developing right now.
Exactly.
The fact that you always have to answer burn decks means you have to be running pings, you have to be running healing. Both of which are things that Heimer Vi doesn't care a ton about. I mean, you can ping down turrets, but if you're not answering the Heimer, you're losing that game.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not answering the Vi, you're losing that game, and you're doing nothing to the Vi with pings.
Which is why I think the meta might start shifting a bit here, because everything is just like part of the reason why the burn deck is not putting up as much as it used to is just because people have teched it so hard.
Yeah.
And so we might see that pendulum swing back. I would expect it to, at least.
Oh, I totally could. The less people are teching against the burn deck, the more that it's just gonna run rampant. It is definitely that strong that if people aren't preparing for it regularly, it'll sweep the meta up.
Oh yeah, then in that case, I think we might see. If this doesn't shake out, I think we might see a ban coming soon for the burn list. Just because if pretty much everyone feels like they have to tech against it.
Yeah.
You know,
I think of all the lists right now, burn does seem like the one with like the most nerfable cards.
Right.
Just like its actual strategy is so strong and linear. That and Bannerman. Bannerman might also find something that gets a little knocked out. I don't know where you put weakness in there. Like, maybe you make Loyal Badger Bear a 4/3, not a 4/4.
I could see that.
I mean, you could also reduce the attack or increase the cost of Grizzled Veteran.
Yeah. Grizzled Veteran is another card that needs to be nerfed, and that's sort of why I was getting out with the Badger Bear, is that just nerfing the Badger Bear is a nerf to both cards. Maybe that's enough. But I do agree, like, doing something to Grizzled Veteran is also a good spot to be at as well.
Yeah, let's just make it a 4/0. Have it instantly die.
There's always a bit of a concern, though, if you mess with that list, right? The cards exist only because of their raw numerical efficiency. If you mess with their numbers, then what are you doing in Demacia other than having a worse version of other regions?
No, exactly. That and it makes sense.
If you take a health off the Badger Bear, then isn't it just that Noxian card that is a 4/3 for 3 but without Overwhelm?
Ooh. Huh.
Yeah.
You're right. It is.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem Demacia faces, right? Is that like it has the most infinitely tweakable set of cards because it's almost all delineated by their power toughness. But also that makes it so that there's not really any interesting strategies you do, so that it basically it becomes a region of good stuff, and by good stuff I mean relative to the CMC, it's offering you, better bang for your buck.
So maybe Veteran is the thing to attack first, and then if things are still too much, then we're in a real problem state. But again, I don't know if we're even necessarily in that bad of a state. It's just, those are the two lists right now that feel like they have the most nerfable options.
Yeah, I mean, I find the meta mostly acceptable except for just how much is teched against burn. But like if it starts swinging back and it's just like a natural give and take across
I was about to say, if people are taking against the deck to the point where it's...
Right.
If people are taking against burn to the point where it's bad, like the meta will move naturally just as people need to tech against each other. Eventually the control decks will have to get a bit greedier because someone's going to do it.
Yeah, like game theory exists, so like this will like settle itself out. I think. My guess is that though, if anything is going to eat a nerf, it's going to be the burn list most likely.
That seems pretty solid. And again, we'll see when their patch notes come out what's actually problematic. I really haven't heard many complaints about the meta as a whole. I think that, again, it's in a pretty solid spot right now. The new set was actually pretty good for opening up some doors. I feel like there are a lot more things that are, viable, right on the edge of being viable. So, if anything, there might be cards that get buffed. Just to kind of,
That'd be cool too. I wouldn't mind that.
I'd appreciate that, right? The meta's pretty diverse. Adding, helping the decks that are hurting rather than messing with the top decks could be a very good thing.
Yeah, I kind of forgot there's the complete opposite side to nerfing called buffing.
Yeah.
For a second there.
There are cards that could still get
I feel like the
buffed.
Freljord could use some help here.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. That actually, if you go down like the list of top decks, there are, 2 Freljord listings in, pretty much, and they're not even until, there's no tier 1 Freljord decks, there's,
Correct.
Nothing until you get to at least tier 2, and then falls off from there. And honestly, like, the Sejuani Swain deck feels way too linear for not doing something powerful enough. Like, if it's gonna, the deck feels like really, really all in on its strategy that just isn't enough to really kill you out. Like, I think their Nutter's Hands might do it, but besides that, they're kind of just, a pretty...
I should also be perfectly honest, I am still playing Shadow Isles Freljord Control, and I still love the deck.
Yeah.
Like, it's probably not better than Karina Control, but it's close enough, and it's a lot more fun, because I like drawing cards.
Yeah.
I like drawing cards too, Adam. I'm not gonna, you're not gonna hear any complaints from this side of the podcast.
I also like drawing cards. I'm actually probably gonna start leaning off the Slamu here in a little bit and start playing something with deep meditation and Eye of the Dragon. I'm just not sure if I actually want to play.
It's the Eye of the Dragon.
Yeah, if I actually want to start getting into Karma Ez or something else along those lines. But I'm gonna start playing around with that card and seeing what I really want to play with it. I think like playing that with some Twisted Fate and just like real going in on the card draw seems like the most fun thing to me.
Well, how about, maybe we can go on over to this Twitch Rivals breakdown, and maybe we can find you a deck to play there, Stan. How about that? How does that sound?
Let's see if anybody played my
boy.
favorite deck.
All right, y'all are going to have to do all the breakdown, because, okay, I just got the link. Okay, yeah, okay.
It's all right. I got it. No worries.
Cool.
So,
all right, so for those not in the know, Twitch Rivals is a tournament series organized and hosted and run by Twitch, where they take a bunch of streamers for a game, exclusively Twitch partners as far as I know. I could be wrong about that, but they hold this kind of invitational exhibition tournament. They're pretty optimized for viewing, so they usually run over the course of like 6 or 7 hours. There's real money prizes for those guys who can win. For this particular event, the tournament was structured as 3 Swiss rounds, followed by a split. And this split is weird. The top 8 players were put into one single elimination bracket, and the bottom 8 players were put into a different single elimination bracket. And then those played out as normal for single elimination. The game structure was players brought 3 decks. The decks could contain no shared regions, so you had to have if you brought, say, a Karma Lux Demacia Ionia build, you could not bring any other Demacian or Ionian decks. Your opponent would ban one of your 3 decks rather, and then with the remaining 2 decks, you would do the same. And with the remaining 2 decks, you would play a best of 3 against your opponent. I believe you just selected a deck per game.
Yes. Also, you did have to bring 2 regions per deck. So that's why, when we were looking at the list, some of them had just a random card thrown in from another region.
Okay. I did not know that. That's
interesting.
That is a really weird-ass deck building decision. And that does explain this, like, Bannerman with 1 Fury of the North.
Exactly, yeah. So, that's the reason why, because I remember we were looking at that earlier and being like, what the hell, but it was
low-key allegiance nerf.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
sure that...
so that's your tournament structure. The invited players were a few well-known top Hearthstone players, Dog, Swim, MegaMogwai. I'm sure some of these other names are people you guys know and I don't, but I'm not going to read the whole list. I'm just listing off the people I know, because I'm a greedy, selfish person like that.
I think Pakra Valakor was the first person to achieve Masters in Runeterra.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And then in addition to those guys, there were some...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there were some top streamers from other games and just from general streaming platforms. So people like Brian Kibler, Firebat, and Crip were invited. And Hafu. In general, for invitational events like this, especially publicity events like this, some of that's going to happen. You're going to have players who are not really majorly involved in this game because you're trying to just get as many eyes as possible on the tournament. And I'm kind of okay with it. Though I really wish they would stop inviting Crip to this. I know he's an enormous streamer, but he doesn't try, he's not good, and he bitches a lot.
Oof.
Yeah, I never heard of that guy in my life.
I used to watch some of his Hearthstone content, and that... Yeah.
Oh, is he like a Hearthstone guy? That's probably why I don't know him then.
Yeah.
He's an extreme salt miner.
Yeah.
So I also played WoW and shit too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so what was the... so let's see. What's some of the breakdown we got here?
Yeah. So... so we talked a bit about this the format, who's in there, and there were also some controversies around the tournament beyond just we don't like the people who were invited. Stan, you want to handle these?
So yeah,
get ready for the drama. Drama alert. There you go, Stan.
So the two big things that happened in this tournament that were a little iffy were, for one, the games were timed. It was 50 minutes to get through your best of 3 rounds, so you did not have a lot of time to play. This meant that some of the games, one particularly big one that knocked Mogwai out of the top 8 bracket, was because of a draw and because Swim is one of the slower players. So there's actually been a lot of flame in the community, as I'm sure anyone listening to this is deep enough in the community to know, that people have been kind of flaming Swim about his slow play and about abusing the rope, because there was pretty much no way for Mogwai to lose at that point of the game. He had pretty much set up an unkillable Fiora. He had multiple single combats in hand. Like, he had a resolved Radiant Guardian, had 2 more Radiant Guardians in hand. There was no way for him to get, beat down, Ledrost out of the game, anything like that. Just, the game was over. But because it just went to time, like the turn before he could clear it out, they get a draw, and Mogwai's knocked to the lower bracket. Again, I think, as Adam kind of explained, like, this tournament as a whole, competitively, like, just purely from a competitive standpoint, wouldn't be that big of a deal, but for these guys playing, they're all looking at a $20,000 prize for first place, so they're really upset when something like this knocks their chances out from it.
Yeah.
That particular problem, I think, is, it's part of the rules. It's technically fair that Swim did it. Swim probably didn't even do it on purpose. I've watched enough of his gameplay to assume that, it's just, he's a slow player.
Dude plays slow as
He
Christ.
plays hella slow.
If I might, Stan, Swim does have a public statement on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to read it verbatim because it's a bit long, but the gist of it is Swim plays slow. He knows this. In an earlier game in the event, he had died to a scenario similar to this, but technically timed out, and he told the tournament organizers that he was conceding the match to his opponent, and he was not afforded the opportunity to do that in this last round, according to him. And if you believe him, and I don't, and given that this tracks with the way he normally plays and behaves, I am willing to believe him. I'm not saying I have any proof, but, I'm willing to believe this scenario.
Yeah.
And if you believe him, then this is entirely on the organizers.
Yeah.
If you don't believe him,
anyway,
then this
honestly.
is mostly on the organizers anyways, because timed rounds with no tiebreakers, no kind of extra turn system, nothing, are a poor system for an event that has any possibility of going over the time.
No, absolutely. And especially when, again, I think some other people have even stated this, that, like, Swim is a slow player. He's had, like, problems going to time in hour-long matches. So cutting another 10 minutes off certainly isn't going to help that, especially in a format where control decks are so strong. Games are
there are
to
a
go
ton
long.
of control decks.
So it really is a shame that, like, especially for Mogwai that this happened. Like, he definitely deserves to be a lot further up. And I think even, too, like, one of his big complaints is, he said he teched his thing so well against this tournament, looked at the lists in the top bracket. A Karina-controlled list was amongst the, decks in the winning player's arsenal, and that's, like, exactly what his lineup was set to beat, was to make sure he'd get that win, have a pretty good time beating something else. So, again, it is a shame that this happened, but, I think...
Well, I mean, then that also falls back on the tournament structure, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
Let's talk a bit about the timed rounds. Timed rounds are kind of a necessity, especially for a PR event like this, right? You can't expect... If the event is built for showing things off and not for creating the absolute optimal play experience, then you're going to have things like timed rounds. That said, it means that you're going to have some non-competitive outcomes.
Right.
You're going to have scenarios where if you'd had a better system in place, you would have a more accurate result.
Yeah.
Secondarily, timed rounds are an opt-in problem. Like when you create a tournament structure, you have ways of building around timed rounds that can fix this issue, and they didn't utilize them. The most famous one is the chess clock, right? You just you have 50 minutes, it's split between 2 players, and players do not get equal allotments, so when the time is up, if a player has been spending more or less time, it will be obvious.
Right. And that, again, is something I think is a pretty easy way to fix this. I think what is nice about this, being one of the few big tournaments for this game to happen so far, is this is good evidence for what not to do in a long-term tournament.
Yeah, it's stress testing, right? We know things that can go wrong now.
Yeah.
But secondarily, let's also talk about the bracket structure, right? For a 16-man tournament, you run 4 rounds of Swiss, not 3, which they ran 3. For those that don't know how you do Swiss pairings, basically you pair based on record, but the thing you need to know is that for proper optimal Swiss pairings, you want enough that each player can play enough games that you have a clear best player at the end, which means for a tournament with 2 to the n players, you need n rounds. 16 is 2 to the 4th, so you need 4 rounds. Pretty straightforward.
A link to this math in the description, friends. But yeah, no.
And so you need 4 Swiss rounds. They did 3, and then when they cut to top 8, but also kept people playing in the bottom bracket. So Mogwai, so the cut came early, and then Mogwai crushed the bottom bracket, right? He won that. He won out the bottom bracket.
Yeah, he won the bottom bracket.
Yeah, so Mogwai's strange result of what was his final result? It was like 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw, and then 3 wins in the bottom bracket. So 4 1-1 put him in 9th place.
Yes, exactly. It's just ridiculous.
Not a well-structured system.
Yeah, not at all. And so that's a lot of the controversy of this game just not being like this tournament. This tournament being a pretty poor competitive structure. They also had some hard technical issues that led to some things going wrong. The site they used to display lists so I'm the player looking at one of the 3 decks, I'm going to choose to ban it. They had an error with the deck code on that. So
this has been janky for a while now, actually.
Yep, but a player submitted their decks, and when the other player went to read them, it read as them not having 2 copies of Deny in the deck. When they went back,
and of course, of all the cards it could have been, it's Deny.
That's the worst card for it to.
The one card you want to count most carefully.
Yep. So during a game, a player was, pretty certain a spell was going to resolve. There was a second Deny there, and this one was entirely on the tournament organizers, and I guess more specifically the site they used, because again they went back and checked everything was kosher on both ends. He submitted a deck with 2 denies in it. He submitted the code that said that, and another game that had to end in a draw. Because
that's the best part, because they spent so long resolving what went on, they drew out the game rather than extending the time or playing the game over or anything else.
Yeah, so
poor structure all around.
Yeah, and again, I think that if you advertise this as not being something super competitive, it's just a fun thing for people to do. What does really suck though is that there's $20,000 on the line for these streamers. There's not a single
more than
one
that. It's like $100,000 total, 20 for the top. There's a lot of money.
Yeah, so no one playing this tournament, especially on a streamer's salary and budget and everything, is scoffing at $20,000. They're all looking at that awesome. That's
That's a year's worth of minimum wage, dude.
Yeah,
it's a lot of freaking money.
No one should scoff at that amount of money, but it's frustrating for them more than anyone, I'm sure. It just, again, that really, really sucks when you're losing or drawing matches entirely because the tournament structure has boned you. You've done nothing wrong.
I will make a quick hot take, though, too. You are, in my opinion, this gets into a deeper philosophical argument, but do what you want. If you can exploit the rules to your advantage, do it. Even if Swim had intentionally roped that entire best of 3 the entire time and was sitting on stream farting into his camera to rope, that's more power to him. Honestly, that's just I'm just ruthless like that, and I'm perfectly fine with people that are too.
I absolutely agree that as long as that's what the rules clearly state. Especially if there's nothing about if there's no even vague sense of we can consider this an aggressive timeout. I don't know what word, malicious timeout,
Unsportsmanlike
something like
is the word
that.
you're looking for, Stan.
Huh?
Unsportsmanlike.
There we go. Yeah,
That's typically what they'll say. Yeah.
an unsportsmanlike timeout, excessive celebration on the play.
Hey, I think I think farting into your camera. I don't think that's very unsportsman. That's fine.
Yeah. I do agree with you, Dan, which is also why, like, hearing Mogwai's response to it that he posted on one of his YouTube videos was pretty nice, where he's like, yeah, I'm very frustrated. This sucks. There was money on the line, but, like, Swim plays that way. I don't even think he did it on purpose. I'm sure he'd be more mad if he did.
Wait, you're telling me...
But the low blow's legal.
Honestly,
You're telling me that the drama is entire... Like, Mogwai didn't even care. It's just community drama?
So, like, Mogwai cared, and he stated that, like, he was frustrated, he's justified in being frustrated, but he's not mad at Swim, he's not, like, he doesn't have any beef with Swim over it. Adam,
yeah. It's called Twitch rivals, all right? They're trying to make rivals.
All the beef is with Twitch.
Pretty much, yeah. Which it should
be. Yeah, we should unite against our one common enemy, Jeff Bezos.
Well, you go. Well, what Twitch is saying in Twitch Rivals is it's Twitch versus the world. You're all Twitch's rival. So...
Yeah, we found out that the treasure was the rivals that we made along the way.
What it is this is the end of the Hunger Games. They tried to pit all these streamers against each other, but at the end they just decided, no, we're not gonna kill it. We'll kill each other if we have to.
Woo wee woo, or whatever that sound is.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think we spent enough time talking about things around
the tournament. I don't know, because honestly, I'm trying to stir shit.
Let's talk about some results and some let's talk about who won, and let's talk about the decks.
Yeah.
So taking first place and $20,000 was Dog.
Yep.
Dog. Looking forward to seeing your subscription to our podcast.
We got a lot of tips for you. If you want to win the next one too, we got you covered.
Dog came in with a Karinovai control deck, a Swain TF kind of I don't even know what to call this.
Let me look at it. I haven't seen it.
I think this would be a control list. This is trying to win in the late game with Leviathan and Swain, like the House Spiders.
House Spiders.
House Spider. So think of House Spider as like, I can't run Hapless Aristocrat.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess you're just running House Spider for chums. That kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But it does mean that, like, against other certain decks, like, if he needs to turn on the aggro, he's, a little better positioned to try and race people down if he needs to.
Yeah, you're right. If I just ignore the House Spiders, this is a control list. I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right. And then last deck was Karma Lux.
Yep. Which, an interesting take for the final region, and I guess because he used the PNZ there, so yeah, I mean, just don't play Freljord because Freljord's the worst region. Seems like a pretty good strategy to win.
Yeah, but also notably, these are 3 control lists. I mean, it's one control list we didn't expect, but going in Karinovai is a pretty safe choice if you don't have a better use for PNZ.
Yep.
And a Karma something control deck is your second one. So just finding a third control combination in Noxus Bilgewater is pretty effective.
Yeah.
Wait, this says Freljord was actually fairly heavily played. It just was the least winning.
Oh, at the tournament, Freljord was
remember,
overall.
Dan, that yeah. So that's total number of regions is going to be the number of.
Oh, that's right. Also, they might be banning out Ionia a lot.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. That's right. There's a ban. Yeah.
So, I really like this lineup of 3 control lists as well. You have 2 control lists that are pretty well suited to beat aggro. Actually, this Karma Lux list is the bottom 2 control lists can easily be going a more mid-rangey plan as well. So they're solid for getting under other control decks. They're solid for going over the aggro plans. And I'm guessing, I want to say this Karma Lux deck is probably being teched for a Bannerman would be my guess. It's either that or the I'm trying to think of which one of these decks beats up on Bannerman the best.
I
A
feel like
ban
most
beats
of these,
up on Bannerman.
Yeah,
most of these decks are teched for Bannerman and Burn, I feel like, in general.
And that seems like a way to do it. Just even if they ban one control list, here's 2 more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we should amend something. I was incorrect about the tournament structure. It was Conquest. So rather than picking your deck each game, you could pick among your decks when you had to, but once you won with a deck, you could no longer use it. You had to win with both of your remaining decks.
That was my guess. Yeah.
All right. With Conquest, something you can do very well, and this list kind of shows it off, is you can target specific decks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right. These lists, I don't think any one of these lists can lose to Burn.
Right.
And so if your opponent has Burn, you ban anything else. It doesn't even matter if they win their other game, but you just get 2 wins in a row against Burn every time.
Yeah, I think the only deck that's really worried about Burn is maybe the Bilgewater Swain deck. Like, this one probably has the most weakness to it, because it has no life gain. It only has, a bit of board clear, a bit of stun, but, like, this one is definitely the most susceptible to it. Karina controls stomping it, and the Lux Karma deck has Loyal Badger Bears and Eye of the Dragons, so you're going to slow them down probably enough to go through. And I mean, even if it was a problem for these lists, it's interesting how little aggro was really in this tournament. And I think part of the reason of that is kind of the really good aggro deck is reliant on PNZ right now, and you don't want to necessarily use your PNZ slot on aggro.
Yeah.
A lot of people really wanted to lean it into being like, we're using PNZ for Karina control, that's the way we gotta go.
I mean, Vi is just such a good reason to go into PNZ.
Exactly. And if you look at, Swim came in second. Swim's PNZ deck was also Karina control. So third place is where we finally break from that pattern of people bringing Karina control, but there are at least a few other going down the list who were running Karina control in this. But where are the other ones? But yeah, I mean, it was a very powerful deck to bring, and definitely one of the best ways to go.
Absolutely. So moving on to Swim, who took second place. We've got Karina Control, which, you all know the list. It's pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. We've got Bannermen with a single Fury of the North to satisfy that you must bring 2 regions per deck requirement.
Yep. Great technical satisfying that. Great.
Yeah.
Good.
So that's the Bannerman deck we know and love. And then last we've got a Lee Sin Twisted Fate with 1 Fizz control deck mid-range. What is this deck?
So this is the one I've been thinking of that he's been kind of toying with and playing with. It's just yoink your opponent's stuff, and I think it ends up being a little more mid-rangey overall. Just kind of depends on what you get from your opponent, but it can be
concussive palm.
This feels like a deck that he allowed his Twitch chat to pick for him.
He's been playing it a lot on stream. He has like a solid handful of videos of running pretty much some versions of this list. So I think it's just something he was really comfortable with, and I know it's something he really enjoys playing as well.
Also, the fact that none of us can instantly say, oh yeah, we know exactly what this is, how it plays, etc., tells me that it's going to have some element of rogue deck that other experienced players aren't going to be as used to it.
Yeah. And,
I mean, and especially the new players who are just, along for the ride because Twitch invited them, this is going to completely catch them off guard.
Oh, very much so. And again, I've seen him play this list quite a bit on stream. There's things close to it. And it does seem like these kind of lists are really banking on what you get from your Black Martyr merchants and what you get from your pilfered goods. Like, when you're getting stuff from your... this deck performs the best against other Bilgewater decks with Steal Your Stuffs, because if you ever hit, draw your opponent's cards that let you draw more of your opponent's cards, that's when this gets nutty.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, the card advantage here is basically infinite in that case. Yeah.
But for the most part, I think just everyone's playing good cards. There's nothing bad that you're going to get from a Pilfered Goods or a Black Martyr Merchant. So it's a pretty solid deck. It's just, I think it's probably pretty hit or miss. I mean, it got him second place, and I'm sure it wasn't the deck people were banning, so...
Right.
Well, no, I mean, it might have just drawn a bunch of bans and just let him play with his better decks.
Yeah. What a strategy that would be. Just, I brought this deck that I'm never going to play, but people are going to ban it every single time.
I mean, that is the next level, like, Grandmaster tier meta move, if we're going to start getting into it like that.
I do know that in the game that Mogwai played against him, Mogwai did ban this deck specifically because of the 1 deny. Which is really interesting that it almost seems like even just, hey, do you want to play against this deny deck? Is even just enough of a thing. Like, if you literally submitted a deck that was 4 denies, that'd be like, hey, maybe I'm going to not play against that because of what my strategy's doing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's interesting. I haven't seen him play it in tournament. I'd like for him to release some stuff.
Stan, to be fair, if he was playing a deck with 4 denies, I would talk to the TO because I would DQ his ass so fast.
Obviously, yes. But if you're playing the deck with 40 denies, then, that's a really important thing. Is that the best deck in the game or not? We don't know.
Who's running this tournament? And then you go and it's Karma, and you're like, Jesus!
God damn it.
All right, so moving on to third place, we've got Prokrovaclor.
Prokrovaclor.
Thank you.
You gotta say
also running 2 control decks and 1 Bannerman deck, with the standard 1 of Fury of the North. But his control decks are of a different brand than what we've seen before. He's running a Heimervi with Ionia control list, and a Bilgewater Shadow Isles deep list.
Yep. Ooh, this one's also running the Lure of the Depths. That's super spicy. I don't see this card in deep decks enough, and it's hard to say how good it is when you can just kind of use Nautilus in the late game to play all of your stuff. But, this effect seems like it should be so much more powerful than it is.
I mean, the cost reduction can lead to some crazy turns even without Nautilus.
Yeah.
I mean, any turn on which you drop... If you've played a few Lure of the Depths, you can have turns with no Nautilus where you just drop 2 or 3 deep dudes, and that's usually enough to swing the board enough to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, both of his decks are they have some wild tempo plays.
Yes.
Particularly with Heimervi. There have been, one game I played yesterday against the Karina control list. It involved me playing a Vi, some other, burn spell to his face, and then a Thermo Beam for 0 to drop 2 Claws of the Dragon, and then swinging in for, 16. Sometimes you just get 2 Claws of the Dragon in hand, and you just drop 6 power for free. Sometimes you do it at burst speed and have two blockers out of nowhere. I mean, Claws is a really good card that I definitely overlooked. Just not thinking about it as much with regards to how blocking in this game works, how attacks in this game work, and how burst speed works.
Yeah, the burst speed blocking is definitely a crucial factor in this card being good.
Yeah, exactly. This is probably my most. I would argue probably the card I overlooked the most from the new set.
I mean, yeah, and this deck's running some really solid with a full bar of mana, attacking into this deck is really spooky. Flash of Brilliance, Twin Discipline, Spirit's Refuge. And then, the thing is, you do any of those things, then Deep Meditate, 2 Claws of the Dragons are on the board, they've drawn 2 extra cards, it's wild. Wild what this deck can do. And again, another reason why you can't be running aggro is because PNZ needs to be doing something much stronger, chiefly probably playing something with Vi.
Yeah.
Alright, so moving on to our 4th list here. We've got Evangelion Zero, who I don't know of, but...
Yeah.
Again, we're looking at 2 control lists, and full 3 control lists here.
Yep.
The first one is a Shadow Isles Noxus Swain list. Those of you who don't know the list, think Karina control, but take all of your PNZ cards and replace them with Swain.
Yeah.
and Noxian Fervor and things
idiot
like that.
Swain, getting the Leviathan, idiot Swain. There we go.
Yeah.
Did it. I made a joke.
This is an interesting list.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
I think it's...
The House Spiders show a lot of respect to the burn decks.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, House Spider is just a pretty solid card. I mean, it's 2 mana for 3/3 worth of power. Like, it's...
Across 2 bodies, too.
Yeah. It does a lot of things very, very efficiently, so...
Right.
I think you're sleeping on that card too hard, Adam.
Yeah, I think...
Yeah, alright.
I think we caught you sleeping, dog.
You gotta understand, the reason that people can even play Yasuo is because House Spider is a card.
He's not wrong.
That entire deck is being propped up on a fucking House Spider. Yeah.
A House Spider of cards.
Yep.
Yeah,
a House
nice, dude.
Spider of cards.
Nice, dude.
Yeah,
His second list... Oh, sorry, do you want to keep going?
No. This one's actually much more
I
interesting.
prefer he wouldn't.
This one is so much more interesting to talk about anyway. This deck is freaking wild.
TF plus Lee Sin.
TF Lee Sin is... Ooh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
There's
I mean, this
so
is
much
just all
fucking
in
card
on-
draw in this list.
Yep. And just all in on the spells.
Goodness
All in
gracious.
on them.
You know what, Stan? Remember how we made the mistake of saying, or I made the mistake of saying, Bilgewater has no buff? Here are some fucking pocket aces.
Yeah, he played pocket aces. That's insane.
wild.
So that's the thing that I think maybe this guy's a poker player and he got invited. Like, he just streams poker and he was like, oh, there's a card called pocket aces? So
Yeah.
I'm clearly ahead every game if I have pocket aces, right?
Yeah, this guy went all in on
Just,
the card flavor from Bilgewater.
just saw his pocket aces and shoved.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, there are a lot of things. So I don't know. This guy is 4th place in a tournament that we've decided isn't super competitive. So I don't know how much I can trust these pocket aces. But I mean, he
4th
did
place is
well
still a
with them.
respectable finish in this event.
Yeah,
Like, you know, the three people ahead of him are real competitive dudes. So saying you came in 4th behind those 3 guys is not a bad finish.
No, for sure. The only things in this deck that I'm honestly really questioning are the pocket aces and the jeweled protector.
So you're all in on that jailbreak.
The jailbreak.
There's gonna be a jailbreak.
The jailbreak, I'm not as questioning. I'm still questioning it, but like, I get it. You want something to play on one that's helping your spell synergy go off.
I get jailbreak more than I get pocket aces.
Yeah, pocket aces is
Yeah.
the one that I just like, huh? I mean, even in its drawn case, this card is still just okay. I mean, but I guess that's the synergy with the Jeweled Protector is the games where like you Jeweled Protector a Lee Sin and then you pocket aces a Lee Sin, you're so far ahead against anyone not running Vengeance that like you're good. So I mean, I gotta wonder. I'd love to see like what his gameplay strategy was. Like, I'm almost thinking he has to auto ban Ionia with this lineup.
Or you mean Shadow Isles?
No, Ionia. The Vengeance isn't as spooky because he has denies to back them up, but he has to get like if he doesn't get rid of other Ionia decks, his Ionia deck can't be played. This deck cannot be played against opposing Ionia decks because the Jeweled Protectors and the Pocket Aces get you wrecked by any Will of Ionias. They get wrecked by just so many weird things that can mess this up really badly.
It looks like he's mainly a TFT and a Hearthstone player.
Okay.
Evangelion Zero.
But you know, we have to give him credit. This deck is inspired. It's not like it evidently did well for him, and you know it's a fascinating build. Like,
Yeah.
this is pretty cool.
I'm honestly wondering though if on that same note, like he got this is the deck that gets banned out, essentially.
Perhaps, but on the other hand, if you can build a deck that always draws a ban, that's not a bad place to be.
No, absolutely. Yeah. That's where you want to be in this format for sure.
Right.
Especially when it's something as spicy and weird as this, where it's just like, you know, what? I mean, again, I would obviously prefer seeing him, like, just trounce people with it because it's a really cool deck, and I'd love to be proven wrong about some of the weird decisions in here and just be like, cool, that's what those were for. But I'm just like, it seems like there are cool things that could happen, but they're just way too situational. This deck just doesn't seem to me to have enough enough range. This deck's very narrow, in my opinion, in what it can do and when it can really go off.
And then he has a Vi Lux deck, it looks like.
Yeah. This I can get behind. This seems like a pretty solid pairing.
It looks like, your Karma Lux or Karma Vi decks, just,
looks pretty nice.
the two non-Karma halves of those.
Right.
Exactly.
So that was the top 4, like kind of like the top placers. Was there any interesting spice from the bottom, the bottom contenders?
So,
some of the,
I did want to go look at
5-9s,
Mogwai's deck because he did win the lower bracket.
Okay.
Yeah. And had a pretty good chance of winning through the higher brackets as well. I mean, he did. So again, whatever you want to say about the draw, he was going to beat Swim. So he was going to beat the second place person here with these lists.
And likely, if you insert him over a random player, that means he was probably favored against Swim and lists similar to Swim's, like, say, Dog's first place list.
Yeah. So there's a very good chance that this list could have been the winning lists, given a slightly different tournament structure.
Yeah, let's definitely check his out then.
All right, so deck number 1, we've got another deep control deck.
Mm-hmm.
I'm liking the one of Thresh.
I'm liking the one of Thresh. It was something I was thinking of screwing around with. This list, and the way he built it is very near and dear to my heart because this is very, very close to what I was looking at when I was building up this list on my first run through of it. And I'd like to see a more refined list to start playing of it.
There's a fucking Riptide in this list.
Whoa, Riptide.
Not just the Nautilus Flip. There's a straight up Riptide.
Single Riptide.
The naked Rip.
Oh my. Well, no. Actually, there is a reason why he did this. There's a very good reason why he did this. His strategy going in after, because I watched his videos specifically, because they're the only ones I could find for actual gameplay from the tournament. His strategy, he was always banning Ionia. Immediately banning Ionia every time.
Okay, yeah.
So once you do that, when your Nautiluses are on the board, they're so hard to get rid of. So that extra
Riptide... Vengeance,
Riptide...
Ruination, or Bust.
Exactly, yeah.
I guess you can theoretically detain them.
So the other thing...
SI or Bust, now it's playing Detain.
The other thing about that, though, is the way he also teched this list just a little bit to make sure that he was always beating Karina Control with it. So even if they have their one of Vengeance to kill a Nautilus, he felt comfortable enough to be far ahead that, okay, cool, they spent 7 mana to deny my 4 mana spell. Here's another Nautilus, let's go. Or, another big respond to... 4 mana, 6 mana. He can Atrocity in response and things like that. I really, really like what he did with this deck. I think it's a really smart build for this, and he did
this showcases how you can target decks, right? I mean, the one of Riptide, the 2 Maokai, these are ways of building decks that beat other control decks.
Yep.
And, Maokai is very good at that.
Yeah.
And just in there's a 1 Terror of the Tides? Man, this list is spicy as fuck.
Yes. Yeah, he really, really, put a lot of thought into what he was trying to beat and how his strategy was going to work out. And, again, I think he executed really well. If this tournament was structured any differently, he probably has the best preparation put into winning this.
Yeah.
I feel like we should not be dissing on Dog, who actually did take it down, and respectably too, right? I mean, it's not just that Dog won his last games 3-0. Dog went into it pretty well, if I remember correctly. Let's find the results here so I can be certain of this. Yeah, Dog went 5-1 on the entire event. Yeah, lost exactly 1 game.
I'm not saying that the first place person wouldn't have gotten. I'm just saying that there's a very good chance that it would have shaken up to Mogwai versus him. Possibly. Actually, where were they in the brackets? Because that's what matters the most for it.
It gets complicated because we have to say who would have been out and what's the counterfactual, and there were some 1-1 tiebreakers that change up if Mogwai's got different results, and it's a mess.
his deck 2 is looks like pretty standard as Karm list.
Yeah.
He's only running one deny, and looked like he threw in a jury rig in place of that. But besides that, it's pretty standard.
Yeah, and notably, Ez Karma also has a very strong control matchup. Right, we're getting onto this repeated theme of here are some decks that can target control decks very hard, and in Conquest you just need to find one deck that you're targeting. So for this list to fall flat, he would have had to run into someone who did not bring control, which feels hard to do given the constraints of this tournament.
Exactly. And then it looks like his third list, is this a pretty bog standard? Oh, wait.
No, this is not.
Oh, it's like a Fiora combo deck?
This list is spicy.
It looks like a Fiora combo?
Yes.
It is.
It's a Fiora combo deck that runs on 2 axes. I actually really liked his breakdown of how this deck works. So he is really just trying to go in on the Fiora and Yielding Spirit combo. Another thing that does really well against control decks, and especially with... again, he is banning out Ionia, so he's banning out one of the hardest counters to this strategy in things like the bouncy thing, Will of Ionia. And I think, even in his game with Swim, there was one detain running around in someone's deck as a way to stop this. So, technically there's ways for this to get beaten, but they're rare edge cases. So the other angle of this deck that I really liked was using the Blinding Assault as a way to guaranteed have and attack with an active Radiant Guardian. That's a synergy that I find was actually really cool, and he used a few times throughout the tournament to really generate a lot of advantage. And again, that's sort of the state that he set up against Swim that was the winning state, was he had an unkillable Fiora from the Unyielding Spirit, he had an active Radiant Guardian, and 2 more in hand. So if his Radiant Guardian dies, he just plays another one. That's giving him enough sustain to ensure that he's never going to run out of health. His Fiora is for sure going to get the 4 kills to win the game. One of those 2 things is ending the game, even if the game did go long. Which is a real shame that he only lost a timer.
Well, I mean, he also lost another game. He was 1-1-1 at the end of the Swiss rounds.
He lost the first game with the
Vuvuzela deck.
God damn it! I forgot what deck he ran. I did see that because he lost the first game, won the second game, was about to win the third. He did also in this tournament, and I think it was against Crip, pull off the Fiora Judgment combo for the win. So
there's a beautiful video of not only that, but also of Crip showcasing exactly why he shouldn't be in these tournaments. There's this very lovely Crip, oh, that's how that works? I guess I lose then. Proceed to salt off a bit.
Oh, no. Yeah. So that was a good little highlight reel for the tournament. Definitely has to go down in the top plays of things
Put it
that
in the
happen.
rail. Nice.
That one of Judgment coming in clutch is pretty good.
So...
And again, I don't mind inviting people who are going to bring eyes, but do you have to invite that person who's going to bring eyes?
Yeah, invite us.
For real. We're going to bring eyes. We've been seen by a few people.
Secretly,
all
3 of us
4
hate
people
each other.
who listen to us.
Secretly, all 3 of us hate each other. We are already all rivals. Now just put us on Twitch.
Come on, Twitch. Get the heat off of you. Get the real rivals in there.
We'll stir up some controversy in and amongst ourselves.
We'll rope each other. We'll start submitting bad decks. Come on, dude.
I'll go over to Stan's house and actually tie him up in rope. I don't care. All right.
Different kind of event there, Dan. Different streaming website.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to make money on both ends, dude.
Well, OnlyFans rivals.
But no. But in reality, something bringing it back. I think that Mogwai's lineup and Dog's lineups showcase 2 different ways you can approach tournaments, and I think it's a good way of kind of breaking it down. Dog played very good, took good decks, played them well, and chose decks that he thought would do well against the meta, right?
Yep.
Lux Karma is a control deck that's pretty solid against other control decks. Karina Control is just the best control deck. And then he has this kind of off-the-wall control deck that looks, well, because of the stealing cards, is well-teched for other control decks.
Yeah.
Right, so he's got these three options. He says control's going to be good in this meta. I'm going to pick 3 control decks, and I'm going to choose ones that are good against the meta. Mogwai is looking at the same idea, right? He says, I'm expecting control decks. Mogwai does something, he commits very hard to this plan. He says, rather than play the best kind of raw in a vacuum decks, I'm just going to assume I can find a control list in every lineup and take the decks that most abuse the rules of this tournament. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
3 decks that are good against control and only lose to Ionia, I can do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great breakdown. It's a great way to approach any tournament that you join.
Absolutely, yeah. Find the weaknesses in the structure and abuse those.
Yeah, that's
even
really,
if they're the timer
really
and swim. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, that's really what I'm all about. I'm much more of a MegaMogwai. I mean, y'all have heard my emoji meta talk for Grandmaster. I'm much more of a cerebral, think outside the box player like Mogwai is. But I think that concludes the serious, boring portion of the podcast, and it's time for the fun portion of the podcast. It's my meme corner. But this week we're doing something a little different. We're going to be doing a little quiz show for my other hosts. Actually, I should probably make a title for this, huh? It's called, Hey, the flavor texts all changed in 1.0. Did you know that? Yeah, I did. Let's find out if you did. So a lot of the flavor texts for a lot of the champions changed, and some other ones. I'm going to provide you guys with the new flavor text, and I'm going to ask you guys what card it is for. How does that sound?
All right, okay. Bring it on.
I got it.
It's kind of a bit of a throwback. I think I'll do like 5 or 6 here, and this is kind of like ranked laddering, so the more you get them right, the more you'll rank up. Getting every single one right puts you in Grandmaster tier, obviously. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one I have is, what's my name?
Draven. It's not Draven. So
is it? I give Stan 1 point, and I give Adam 1.01 points for adding in the A's. So yeah, I mean, I want to start with an easy one. That's very.
I mean, Stan, you have to know it's not Draven, it's Draven.
Draven. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of a throwback to our own pod, dude. Come on, Stan. Yeah. All right. This one is also rather easy. Progress.
Would that be Heimerdinger?
Probably Heimerdinger.
Yeah. It is, in fact, the Dong. 2 out of 2 for
your
both
dongers.
The Dong man
2 out of 2
himself.
for both of you. Let's see if I can find a little bit of a harder one. All right, so now we're going to start venturing into
the Twilight Zone.
I wish. Ones that aren't champions.
Oh, fuck.
So these might be a little
shit.
Took years to cultivate this deadly physique. Tireless days of spotting birds, describing clouds, and lifting tray after tray of sweet buns. Who else has such dedication? And I will give you an offer. I'll give you a bit of a hint. This is a Ionia creature.
Yeah, that much was obvious.
Okay, I'll give you a little bit more of a
inspiring mentor, right?
Wait, have you both answered?
No, I haven't answered yet.
I have.
I know you just said Ionia, but I'm still going with War Chefs, and you lied to me.
I respect that because of the sweet buns. Adam is in fact correct, though. It is inspiring mentor. Nah. And I'm starting to become suspicious that he's just looking this up.
Nah, he's pouring tea in his art, man. I just know the card.
Yeah, fair.
All I'm trying to say is you definitely rope-a-doped me because War Chefs do got some sweet buns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I'll give you a half point for.
Yes.
For thinking outside the box.
Yeah, come on. The tournament organizers here are cheap. You roped me, dog.
So the score is currently 3.01 to 2.5.
Yeah, it's very loose sort of floating integer sort of. By floating integer, I mean floating number.
Yeah.
Sort of spectrum here.
Nice.
Very, very cool. All right, so next up is I'm gonna go back to a champion real quick. I feel bad for dunking on Stan so hard with that one. So how about this one? When I look out over my home, I see what it is, but also what it could be. Prosperous and plentiful, not only for my people, but for all of those who seek peace. The blank united. I'm not going to include that word because saying that word I think gives it away absolutely, but I will say it is a region.
I got this one already, Stan. You want to go?
Lux?
Nah.
All right.
It's Ash.
Ash, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ash. So we have, what is it, 3.01 to 2.5 now?
No, 4.01 to
4.01?
2.5.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, for the final. This is for not all the marbles. It's for, again, another point.
And
Also for a
Grandmaster
champion.
tier, if I get it right.
I'm kind of liking all this power I'm getting. All right. Let's see. Yeah, okay, here it is. Evil has taken the hour, but it will not win the day. Remember our fallen and wear their memories like armor.
Is this a champion or just a card?
It's not a champion. It is a card.
Fuck.
I can give a hint. It's from Demacia. I guess that might be obvious.
Yeah.
It is a...
It's Vanguard
I want to say
Redeemer.
It's a two-costed creature. Let me see. I think it's a two-costed creature.
Oh, it's two
It's
costed.
sorry. It's a three-costed
It's
creature.
Senna!
It's Vanguard Redeemer, right? Isn't it? Because
you both
remember the
answered?
Fallen is her voice line?
Fart, you're right. That is also a three-liner.
I'm gonna need final answers in the next 10
Final
seconds.
answer,
You're both
Vanguard
out of the
Redeemer.
format.
I'm locking in Senna.
All right, the answer is Dawn Speakers. You're both wrong.
Oh.
Damn it. Alright, I don't get Grandmaster tier, damn it.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's tragic. Yeah, you're so close too because of that .01.
Yeah.
All right, so final breakdown for the listeners. We have Adam at Masters tier, like mid Masters. Like he'd probably get about 6th place in that tournament.
I can
we
live
have
with that.
Stan. Yeah, we have Stan in gold tier, but not quite dog shit gold tier.
Okay. I can accept
so
that.
like yeah,
Gold
like gold
4 or gold 2? Gold 2? Okay.
Gold 4?
Gold 2.
I thought there were
gold 2,
5.
gold 1.
There are 4 in gold, aren't there? So that would be gold. I was gonna go for gold 3. I just, forgot that there were 5 things.
No,
there were
it's
4
gotta
things
be
in
at
gold,
least
not 5.
gold, too. All I'm
It's
trying
like
to
a
say
gold
is
2.
this game is unfair because Adam clearly read more than me and I can't read.
And then, of course, as always, I am still in Grandmasters alone by myself, and I'm loving it.
Forever alone.
Yeah, forever alone in the best world, and in the best part of the ladder.
Over here bouncing my own creatures.
Heck yeah. Anyways, I think that'll probably do it for us for this week, for episode 15, 14, whatever. 15, yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, for Run the Terra, I've been Grandmaster Dan.
I've been Adam Edelman Munoz.
And I'm Stan Jarzewski, and I'm so glad we're back in order.
Yeah, there we go.
Sorry about that,
Get
guys. My internet is shit. You guys know that.
Anyways, we will still be those people next time, and we will see you guys then.